to us. My name is Kenneth Anderson Lukwago, your host, and today we'll be looking at declaration of assets and liabilities by leaders as a requirement by the Leadership Code Act. Well, we know annually leaders actually every after 2 years, leaders are required to file or declare their assets and liabilities as a requirement of the Leadership Code Act. Failure to do so attracts a number of sanctions, which we will hear during this discussion today. Now, it's that period when leaders are required to do so through the Inspectorate of Government, and we know they do analysis, check whether what you've declared is right or wrong, and then where possible, take relevant action against you. We have also got reports that a number of leaders who actually did not adhere at the last round, and there are sanctions that are going to be taken against them. So today, I'm speaking to the person who is in charge of this particular function of the Inspectorate of Government as the focal person on the Leadership Code Act, and that is the Deputy Inspector General of Government, Dr. Patricia Achan Okiria. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, Kenneth. I am Dr. Patricia Achan Okiria. Achan is a name given to a man among
Achan Okiria.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us.
And good evening, listeners. Thank you for tuning in Radio 1.
And it's a pleasure having you here in studio.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's begin by way of a background so that people can understand why this aspect of declaring assets and liabilities is so important, given what is provided for in the Leadership Code Act.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. First of all, it's an honor for the Inspectorate of Government to be here to talk about declarations which are happening in March this month. Thank you very much for giving us a space to share with the leaders and citizens this information, because the purpose of declaration is basically to ensure that leaders comply with the provisions of the law. The Article 225 of the Constitution and 234 of the Constitution and Section 3 of the Leadership Code Act and Section 8 of the Inspectorate of Government Act provides for our mandate as the Inspectorate of Government to enforce the Leadership Code. And when you look at the Leadership Code, it basically sets a minimum standard of behavior and conduct expected of all public servants. And this set of standards is basically provided for within the law. So when we require leaders to declare, basically what I'm doing is basically to remind them to declare, because there is a provision of the law which requires leaders to declare their incomes, assets and liabilities to the Inspectorate of Government every 2 years in the month of March. And Chapter 14 of the Constitution and the Leadership Code Act mandates the Inspectorate of Government and the Leadership Code Tribunal to enforce the Leadership Code of Conduct. So as you're aware, the last declaration was in March 2023, and the next one will commence on the 1st. We commenced actually on the 1st, on Saturday, March 2025. And this declaration period is only for leaders, not public officers. So it's important for us to know the difference between the two. Public officers who are not leaders shall submit their declarations next year in April 2026. Now, when you look at these declarations this year, the theme again is on enhanced accountability through the wealth disclosure. So leaders who are expected to submit their declarations in March are specified within the second and third schedule of the Leadership Code Act, Part A and B. And it's important for people to know that when that all declarations of incomes are submitted digitally to the Inspectorate of Government, and therefore every leader should successfully submit their declaration, and one needs to furnish the Inspectorate of Government with their email addresses, mobile phone numbers, which can be used basically to help them through the process. So you asked why? Why are we declaring? Why is it? Because it is provided for in the law. And it's also a tenet of good governance. Because when you look at Principle 26 under the Directive Principles of State Policy in the Constitution, it says that all public offices are held in trust for the people. So this means that all power and authority must be exercised for the benefit of the public. So if the leaders are to build trust on the people they are leading, then they should be able to walk in the light. This goes to the resources entrusted to the public offices, which are held by the leader, and this should be held in a manner that only advances public welfare and cause, not for personal gain. Therefore, there must be transparency in the management of public power, in the management of this public authority, and even resources. So that means that we who hold these high positions, we hold these positions in trust of the people, and the people must be able to know our worth. These are basically tenets of good governance for which the IG is mandated to undertake within Article 225 of the Constitution to promote, and is part of our core function. So the Inspectorate of Government has a function to promote fair, efficient, and good governance in public offices. So when you look at the need for declarations, the IG is able to check and ensure that these incomes, these assets, and liabilities of public officers are commensurate to their legitimate sources of income. And this is basically why leaders and public servants are to declare, because we are basically promoting the principle of accountability and building on public trust, so that the people we lead basically can trust their leaders because they know their worth.
All right. You did mention that we understand that every other 2 years a declaration must take place. Now, you had a declaration in 2023. What kind of feedback can you share with members of the public? Was there compliance, or are we likely to see action being taken against certain leaders?
Well, in 2023, when we had that cycle of declaration, there was very, very good response, because we first of all, this whole vibe about declaration, choice of words, began in 2017. 2017, we were doing paper declarations. And 2017, the compliance rate has kept on improving. 2017, when leaders declared, their compliance rate was 85%. And then in 2023, our compliance rate went to 90%. And I therefore expect that this year, the IG will receive at least 95% of the leaders expected to be declaring. So we have seen that a good number of leaders who did not submit their declarations in March were prosecuted.
Really?
In the Leadership Code Tribunal for failure to declare, and were punished.
Did it
so
happen?
If you look at, if you look at the Leadership Code Tribunal, of course the IG has got to do verifications and do investigations and assess case by case. Why did the leader fail to declare? Some people are incapacitated by health reasons. Some people are just not able. So we look at case by case. And then those who fail to declare and they did not have any strong reasons, we then investigate, prepare that case, and submit to the Leadership Code Tribunal, because the tribunal enforces our decisions.
Maybe let's stay there a little bit. So you require people to declare. I understand there is a portal on your website. Can we go through that process? How is the declaration done?
Well, when you look at the portal, how to declare, the Inspectorate of Government previously faced challenges related to the paper declarations, and that is the spirit behind having this online declaration. So in particular, we looked at the high cost of procuring, distributing, collecting, storing declaration forms of over 25,000 leaders for every declaration period. So the current online declaration system has basically enabled the IG to receive, process, and manage declarations electronically. And its benefit is because it is fast, it is efficient, and it's also less costly, and leaders can submit their declarations from anywhere in the world as long as they have internet connectivity. They no longer have to physically queue at the IG offices, and it's considerably cheaper for both leaders and the IG in terms of the printing, the transport costs, and data entry costs, and so on. So you find all this is reduced and is manageable. So what a leader needs to do is to basically just log on to the system. If he declared previously, it's about updating what you had already declared.
Declared.
If you have disposed of land, you expunge that from your form. If you acquire additional assets, you include them. If God bless you with a new child, you include that child.
Even children are supposed to be there.
Yes,
Okay.
you declare your children, because remember, you're spending on them in terms of maintenance and education and upkeep. So it's very important that a leader declares,
All right,
because
all right.
his expenditure is also, and also a leader must declare his interests. So that means even the property owned by your spouse, as a leader, you've got to declare, because you have an interest there. If you have got a girlfriend you intend to marry, and you have bought for her a car, you have interest in that relationship. You've got to declare that.
That's a gift. Do you have to go after it?
We will talk about gifts when
okay.
you ask me questions on gifts.
Okay.
But I'm saying, what does a leader have to declare? A leader
exactly.
has got to declare all his income, assets, liabilities. So that means you've got to declare, if you have a business and you're generating money from it, profit, you've got to declare that. You've got to declare even the losses. If you've taken a loan from somewhere and somebody owes you some money, you've got to declare. If you have a bond or treasury bill, you declare that as well. So it's important, and within the law, it provides for in Section 3 that a leader should be able to basically declare every property he has. You're supposed to declare within 3 months of commencement of the date of the leadership code, or even 3 months after 7th May of that year. For instance, if you're exiting, then 3 months of appointment. If you're appointed to a leadership position, you're supposed to be able to declare
Okay.
your assets, your incomes, and your liabilities.
All right. Let's use an example. I'm a leader. I've gone onto that web portal. I've declared.
Yes.
What next? Because in there's an issue, because members of the public will tell you maybe this is a ritual. People send in thousands and thousands of documents. The IG says this one has declared, and that's it. Do you really make use of these documents? What follows?
Well, when leaders have finished declaring and submitted the online declaration form, we then go into verifications. Of course, the computer will generate and show us how many declarants we have received over the period of March, and to also show how many have not declared, because we have a database of all leaders. We know we are expecting declarations from 24,000 leaders this period, and those who have not declared, the computer will just show that there is a red button and so has not. Then we prepare and do verifications. Now
what does that involve?
Verifications means going to check to ensure or ascertain that whatever is declared is commensurate to somebody's well-known sources of income. So this is why we urge leaders who are expected to declare truthfully and honestly. If you have 3 houses, declare them as 3. If you have 7, don't declare only 2, yet you have 7. Because in the process of verification, we are able to find out that you have certain assets you have not declared. And that is now in our innovative mechanisms, clandestine way of bringing in innovation, and we get to discover that you're probably paying utility bills somewhere, or you've registered property in the name of your houseboy who doesn't know that that property has been put in his names, but we get you when it comes to issues of bills. Then sometimes it's URSB. We see that, hey, this person has registered this under his company and is the director in this company, so this asset belongs to him. There are people who own businesses and they just don't want to declare. But in the process of verification, we actually discover you're probably paying taxes and whatnot. Then we discover, but what is the point of paying taxes in a business you don't own, where you don't have any interest? Remember, we are saying declare everything you have interest in.
Well, we can have the business paying and you do not know who is behind the business.
Well, for every business registered, there is a board, there is director. You get to know who the owner is when you lift the veil. In law school, we were taught about lifting the veil of those companies, yes, of incorporation. So you get to discover who is the owner of this. And in so doing, we basically get to know those who are in breach and those who are not in breach.
Can we have a situation where a particular building declares its owner?
But
other than the person declaring.
But the law says the
building.
leader is supposed to be declaring. So how do you
Well,
expect a building to declare?
I'm talking about the investigative part.
Mm.
There are so many buildings that keep coming up in different parts of this country, and sometimes we hear stories that they will tell us that building belongs to so and so, but it's being managed by that person.
Well, at our own initiative, we can take on case by case. But sometimes whistleblowers come and say, but we see this mushroom, this belongs to so and so, or they write an anonymous complaint, and then we pick interest and go ahead and do what? Sanction the investigation, and we're able to find out, ascertain the truth, whether it belongs to a company or the owner or yes.
All right. So after the declaration has been done and you've carried out the verification, what follows?
Well, like we said, leaders are supposed to be declaring, then we do the verifications, and those who are all required to declare if they have breached, and sometimes the breaches within the law for failure to declare their incomes, late submission of declaration of incomes. There are some people who fill the form and then they don't submit in the end. The computer will automatically indicate that you have not declared, and yet you fill the form and just did not submit. So on case-by-case basis, we're able to assess and be able to let the person, maybe we open the system and that person submits, because you will have already updated his information. But there are people who late submission of declaration is punishable by the law, non-declaration of income, assets or liabilities, or even making false declarations. You have 7 houses, you've declared 2. And then there are people who declare in anticipatory declaration of income and assets. You have 3, you declare 21. So the law punishes that, because that is false declaration. You're declaring in anticipation, and we suspect that you plan to go and steal this money from somewhere else so that you can have it. Failure to submit correct information in the declaration of incomes, assets, and liabilities. So these are basically the offenses that's provided for within the law, and these offenses have penalties. The Leadership Code Tribunal can use its discretion on case by case. Again, as I said earlier on, they can issue fines, warnings, or even cautions, and they can even recommend demotion from someone's position. Your principal, you can be demoted to senior or to officer level. Then dismissal from office, vacation of office, and even confiscation and forfeiture of illicitly acquired assets, gifts, or benefits to the government. Someone can be made or asked to forfeit those properties. So these are basically what the offenses are, and the penalties relating to declaration.
Right, Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. My guest this evening, Dr. Okiria Achan. She is the Deputy Inspector General of Government, and she's in charge of the Leadership Code Act function. We are looking at the importance of declarations of assets and liabilities by leaders in this country, and what it requires to actually do that. You talked about some of the punishments that occur when somebody is in breach. You talked about fines, dismissal from office, disqualification from holding public office, investigation and possible prosecution by the IGG. Do you have some examples that you can share?
Well, I don't have them off cap, but just know that within the law, Section 4,
the only vivid example that we know is that of the Honorable John Ken Luchamuzi, which is something that happened quite some time
this information is all on the website of the Leadership Code Tribunal. But according to Section 4.8 of the Leadership Code Act, a leader who fails to, without reasonable cause, submit a declaration commits a breach, and the offenses I've already talked about. Breaches of the code are prosecuted before the Leadership Code Tribunal, and this tribunal is already biting hard. In terms of statistics, I can tell you that the tribunal has been able, from the previous declarations, to deal with 150 cases where they have sanctioned, they have fined, warned, cautioned, demoted, even recommended dismissal from office and vacation of office, and there are some assets that have been confiscated for people who have illicitly acquired them. So it is a tribunal's responsibility to find these people, to handle these cases. All we do as the Inspectorate of Government, we investigate, do verifications, do investigations, prepare these files, and we sanction them to the Leadership Code Tribunal.
So you are the
for
ones
better
who prosecute.
management. Yes, we
in the
prosecute before the tribunal.
Are the proceedings of this tribunal open to the public?
Yes.
Maybe some of these questions we are asking, we could at least.
And thank you very much, Kenneth, for these questions. The tribunal, the Leadership Code Tribunal, with the Inspectorate of Government, we needed to be doing dissemination of these anti-corruption laws. But as you may be aware, government has been constrained resource-wise. So we are not able to do as much dissemination, but we try. When you give us airspace like this, I could come one evening and talk about the laws and responsibilities of this Mwananchi and the information, basic information they need to know about the tribunal.
What I'm actually talking about is a situation where it's an open sort of courtroom.
Yes, it's an open
where
tribunal.
Members of the public can come and sit in, the members of the press,
Yes.
and report on the proceedings. Because rarely do we get some information from there. And yet you're saying we have over 3,000
if you give me more airspace, Kenneth, I think I will come here with the chairperson of the tribunal so that you hear from the horse's mouth itself. But the tribunal is open. The decisions of the tribunal are all well indicated in their website, and anybody who wants to know that information can just log on to the Leadership Code Tribunal, and you're able to see some of those, even the decisions the tribunal reaches. But it's very important for the public to know that when you see any case of breach of the code, when you see any leader, for instance, abusing public property, the tribunal does not only deal with declarations, the tribunal deals with other cases, other offenses, like abuse of government property, abuse of office, illicit enrichment, and so on and so forth. So apart from declarations, the tribunal handles also those other cases. And for us as the IG, we keep referring the cases to them for adjudication, and the Inspectorate of Government prosecutors go and prosecute before the tribunal. But it's important for the public to pick interest really and be there, and even the fourth estate to report, so that the citizens get to know that this tribunal is actually working. When
can we tell that the tribunal is sitting? Does it sit all the time?
It has a cause list which is normally shared.
Where can we find it? Where is it housed? Where is the tribunal housed?
The tribunal, these questions are too many. Yes. But we have a Leadership Code Tribunal. They sit at Lumumba Avenue. The plot number, I don't have it off cap, but I know where it is. If you ask me now, I will take you there. But it's important for that information also to come out clearly so that the public gets to know where the tribunal is and where they can. But cases before the tribunal are sanctioned by the Inspectorate of Government. So the public cannot just walk in and say they are going to file a complaint before the tribunal or a case before the tribunal. And the cases, the nature of the cases, I've mentioned the breaches the tribunal deals with: failure to declare, late submission of declarations, cases of illicit enrichment, primitive accumulation of wealth, making failure to declare correct information at the point of declaration, and so on. It deals with some of those cases to do with breaches of the Leadership Code.
All right. I think I've found their address. They are at Plot 32 Lumumba Avenue, Padre Pio House, on the 6th floor. That's where they sit. So that's where one can find a cause list.
Yes.
And know when who is being prosecuted.
Yes, and
why.
You can also look at the website. Yes, sometimes that information is put on the website by the registrar of the tribunal. On their
website.
Yes.
All right. Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. We're going to go for a break, but kindly keep your comments coming via the WhatsApp line 0703 090 090. Today we are looking at the importance of declaring assets and liabilities under the Leadership Code Act, requirement for all leaders in this country. There are leaders who are required actually to do so. And I'm speaking to Dr. Patricia Achan Okiria, Deputy Inspector General of Government. She is also the focal person on the implementation of the Leadership Code Act. Stay tuned, Radio 1 FM 90. We'll continue after. Thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum, live on Radio 1 FM 90. My name is Kenneth Anderson Lukwago, your host, and my guest this evening is Dr. Patricia Achan Okiria, Deputy Inspector General of Government, focal person on the Leadership Code function. And our topic of discussion focuses on declaration of assets and liabilities by the leaders as a requirement of the Leadership Code Act. Now, now I want us to go really slow in this particular segment so that people can understand. Already I can see some questions. What kind of leaders are expected to declare? Because the government has, we have so many leaders in this country, from LOC1 to the top, to the president, are all those required to declare. Who is required to declare now? Because I heard you earlier talking about a certain period when other leaders are expected to declare. So who should take action within this month of March?
Thank you very much, Kenneth. Like I said earlier on, we are receiving declarations from leaders
Already.
Leaders who are provided for within Section 2 of the Leadership Code Act. And the law says a leader is that person holding or acting in any office specified in the second schedule. And when you look at the second schedule of the Leadership Code Act, it has got two parts. Part A provides for the political leaders, and Part B provides for the specified officers, which includes heads of government departments, divisions, among many. So all public servants are advised to ensure that they check this schedule to ascertain whether they fall in this category of leaders. And like I said again, the public servants are provided for within the Leadership Code Act also. They are in the Constitution, Article 175A and B defines a public servant or a public officer and public service. A public officer is that person who is holding or acting in a public office and derives his emoluments from the consolidated fund. So that is a public officer. But when you look at the law, this time you look at the second schedule, and the second schedule has got that breakdown of who are the political officers and who are the specified leaders we're talking about. Now, when you look at the second schedule, there is a breakdown. Part A has got the political leaders, and that one starts from the president, vice president, speaker and deputy speakers, chairperson and vice chairpersons of the national conference under the movement political system, the prime minister and deputy prime minister, national political commissar under the movement political system, the attorney general, minister, minister of state and deputy minister, all members of parliament, director and deputy director of the movement political system, a member of the national executive of any political party or organization, chairperson, vice chairperson of a district or sub-county, a member of a district executive committee, a district councillor, a municipality chairperson, speaker and deputy speaker of a district council. That is schedule 2, second schedule, part A on political leaders. Then we have part B. Part B basically touches on the specified officers. And here we have got judges of courts of judicature, president and deputy president of the industrial court, magistrate, registrar of courts of judicature, inspector of courts, permanent secretary, heads of government departments, by whatever name they are called, heads of divisions or sections in government departments. We have got the presidential advisor, presidential assistant, presidential ADs and private secretaries in the president's office and state house, ambassadors and high commissioners, all officers in the Uganda People's Defense Forces, director generals, inspector general of government and deputy inspector general of government, heads of directorates, departments, heads of divisions and sections, inspector general of police and deputy, commissioner general of prisons and deputy, resident district
Looks like
commissioners,
the entire government system.
and so on. So all heads of government departments, ministries and agencies are catered for here.
All right.
That is why I'm advising the leaders out
act.
there. Please look at the second schedule to ascertain whether you fall in this category of the political leaders or the specified officers.
All right.
Otherwise, the law is quite clear.
Those are so many declarations. How long does it take you to verify and conclude? And it looks like, do you have a full-fledged department that actually does this?
We have got a
lot of work.
directorate. We have got a directorate of leadership code, but we also have got focal point persons in every ministry, department, and agencies and local government.
Who handles
We have
that?
trained people in IT to help manage the process.
Okay.
But also, when you talk about verifications, now this is a heavy exercise, and for 24,000 leaders, it's quite a big number. We have 16 regional offices, but we bite what we can chew. We will work progressively within the resources we have, because you cut your coat according to the cloth. So we basically cluster this. We can say we're going to be doing verifications for permanent secretaries and undersecretaries and heads of units in a progressive manner,
Okay.
because we cannot do verifications for all the 24,000 leaders at a go.
All right. Earlier on, I asked you, I asked you a question. I was wondering why you were actually saying that even gifts should be declared, and we have had some people actually, saying, this is a gift. It wasn't a government property. In the past, there was a minister, I think, who came from abroad with a camera. I think it was about worth $2,000 or something like that, $200. I don't remember very well. But he was a minister in charge of the sector that I belong to. That's the Minister of Information at that time. He didn't declare. And there was some sort of a tug of war between the minister and the Inspectorate of Government at that particular time. Is it a requirement to declare gifts?
Well, that's a very contentious issue, but the law is quite clear on declaration of gifts. And a gift is well defined within the law. Again, when you look at Section 2 of the Leadership Code Act, anything of value or benefit given to a leader, directly or indirectly for his benefit, or in his official capacity as a public officer, then that one is basically treated as a gift. So a gift or donation to an officer in a public occasion or commission or transaction shall be treated as a donation or commission. But when it is taken as a gift, donation or commission, then the institution represented by that public officer has to be brought into book, meaning that that public officer should come and declare that gift to the Inspectorate of Government. Then the Inspectorate of Government can send it to the accounting officer to use his discretion on how that gift can be used for the benefit of that institution. We have seen many public officers today and leaders receiving gifts and keeping quiet with the gifts, and yet the law is quite clear. There are a handful of people who come to the Inspectorate of Government and declare their gifts. I was on a trip and they have given me this van. I want to donate it to my constituency. I want to use this as an ambulance, and so on and so forth. So when can a public officer or leader or accept a gift? A leader or public officer may accept a personal gift or donation from a relative, a friend, to such an extent that the occasion is accepted as a custom or a birthday. So if it is his birthday, if it is a souvenir, he can accept it as a gift. If it is a traditional marriage ceremony, there are gifts also that are given at traditional marriage ceremony. So this leader may accept a gift if the gift is of the nature of a souvenir or ornament and does not exceed 5 currency points. That's 100,000 shillings. So those gifts you people normally give at Christmas, where you have got some souvenirs, a cup, well engraved with the logo of the company and so on. You're basically doing sales, and the quality or value of that gift is not beyond 5 currency points. It's acceptable. What should leaders or public officers do when they receive gifts? When a public officer or a leader receives a gift, he must ordinarily exercise due diligence and establish the source and purpose of the gift, because a gift may be given to me to influence my decision in a matter. A gift may be given as a bribe. So any gift, donation, or commission on any transaction given to a leader or public officer is deemed a gift, a donation, or commission to the government of Uganda. That's why I'm saying whenever they receive a gift, it should be declared, and the IG will write and send it to the accounting officer to use it at his discretion within the ministry, department, or agency. And whenever a leader or a public officer is in doubt as to the appropriateness of accepting an offer or a gift, then he must consult the Inspectorate of Government for advice. And this again is provided for within Section 10.5 of the Leadership Code Act. So gifts or other benefits of value, which is 10 currency points, that's 200,000 and above, received in a 12-month consecutive period, must be disclosed to the Inspectorate of Government. So we are now going through a very complicated time when leaders, people are into elections. Someone can pick it and say, well, you received this cow, you didn't declare it, what was the intention of receiving this cow? So whenever a leader or a public officer is in doubt on issues to do with the gift, I think it's important for them to come to the Inspectorate of Government for clarity and specificity. And it's also important for them to know how are the gifts declared to the Inspectorate of Government? How are these gifts handled thereafter? And like I said, when gifts are declared to the Inspectorate of Government and handed over to the accounting officer of the ministry or the institution that was represented by the leader, the gift shall be disposed of in a manner which is provided for within the PPDA law. That is Section 5A of the law. And where the gifts are in form of money, it shall be deposited within the consolidated fund. So the Inspectorate of Government is responsible for issuing guidelines on how perishable gifts like live animals are dealt with, and live animals are dealt with within the law. So, and there are also repercussions within the law for not declaring gifts. According to Section 10(6), a leader or public officer who fails to comply with the provisions of this section basically commits a breach of the leadership code, and he or she can also be prosecuted before the leadership code tribunal. So that is about gifts and how the law treats the gifts. And basically, leaders must know that when you receive a gift above 5 currency points, it is in order for you to come and declare the gifts. And the Inspectorate of Government will reply your declaration letter and refer you to the permanent secretary, and even write to the accounting officer of your ministry, department, or agency for his discretion on whether the gift can be given to the institution, or the discretion of the permanent secretary to allow the officer have the gift for his own use as provided. So that's how gifts are treated.
All right. Now, in this country, there's a law called Access to Information, which allows members of the public, members of the media to access some information. So declarations occur. There could be people who are interested in knowing how much does the president have, how much does the speaker have, how much does the president of the National Unity Platform Party have, how much does the president of DP have. Actually, somebody who is even asking me a question that is linked to politics, and is saying declaration of assets and liabilities should be a requirement for nomination for one to actually contest for an elective office in this country. Can you allow us, members of the public, to freely access this information?
Looking at things, I think it will be a requirement for everybody who applies for a certain position of leadership to declare. Like we've seen, the judiciary has embraced this. This declaration period was launched in the judiciary the other day. And for the judiciary, for promotions, for application for new jobs, every applicant must attach a declaration form. Show that he has declared his assets, incomes, and liabilities. So whatever that person is recommending, it is very, very possible that is where we are going. For every leader, before you stand, with the time, you will be required to declare. As laws get amended, reviewed, and improved over times, I think that is the direction we are taking. But to access declarations by a third party, there is a procedure you take before you access the declarations. You quoted the law, the Access to Information Act, and that law says any citizen can access any information in the hands of a public officer or in a public office, as long as that information does not jeopardize the security of the state, as long as that person is a citizen. So going forward, I think that is possible, but the procedures must be followed. What is the reason for this? Is it for purposes of research? Is it for purposes of just knowing? And then you apply, and then it's our discretion. We give you a form, you pay.
Well, you're always asking members of the public to join you in the fight against corruption. So me as a member of the media, I can get a program here and start reading out some of the assets.
But when you look at the Constitution, the Constitution also talks about the right to privacy. How are you safeguarding the right to privacy of your citizens?
The moment you become a public figure, public leader, you shed off some of those rights.
I agree with you entirely.
Be open to scrutiny.
I agree with you entirely. But remember, the law you quoted does talk about even the right to privacy of the individual. You cannot just access any information just like that. You have to come up with clear reasons. Do you need it for research? What is the purpose?
So we should...
Then you apply, you fill the form, you pay for it, then we use our discretion to let you access that information.
You know why I'm asking you this question? Because somebody out there is going to say, well, the assets and liabilities are being declared to the Inspectorate of Government, the IGG, who is appointed by the president. Probably the president has declared something and it's not the right. The IGG will not do anything.
Well,
because they are under the authority of the appointee.
We need to understand the dynamics of the fight against corruption in our country, because if you really love your country, then you must be able to love even the people in your country. Supposing we scatter these declarations, everybody just accesses as and when they feel like, the security of the individual is at stake. You will find that people are being attacked because of what they have. People are being attacked because someone probably wants to steal, or people are having access to people's private, information, and so on and so on. So it is about protecting the citizen, the right of the citizen. But if Ugandans really feel like they need this law to be relaxed, then they cause an amendment on the Access to Information Act. When there is an amendment of the law, and the law says every declaration can be open to the public. So
if
for us, the implementers, will be very happy to implement the law as it is.
So if I go to your website or the website of the Leadership Tribunal, I won't find any information about what has been declared.
But the Leadership Code Tribunal deals with prosecution of cases we have sanctioned to them, not the information relating to declarations. So
this
the information relating to the declaration is within the Leadership Code Directorate, in the IG, and there is a procedure one needs to take within the law in order to have access to them.
All right.
Yes, for instance, if you need...
It includes even payment, some payment of money?
Yes, you pay some fee. It used to be 200,000. The regulations were amended, and it is now 100,000. So if there is information you need, you follow that procedure, apply for it, and then you will be granted. Yes.
All right. We have comments coming in from the listeners, so I'll read out some of the comments and you respond to them. We'll begin with Joanne, who is listening in from Toronto in Canada. Thank you very much for tuning, Joanne. Thank you for hosting Dr. Patricia. I would like to thank Dr. Patricia for the work she's doing despite the challenges. Thank you for motivating the young people of Uganda to serve honestly. We appreciate your effort in enforcing good governance. If many government officials had the zeal, honesty, and dedication you have in serving the country, Uganda will be a better place to live in. Are there any particular challenges? We'll want to hear from you.
Well, there are challenges, like I did mention, resources. We need to do these verifications, but we cannot verify all the 24,000 leaders because we do not have enough resources. So we cut our coat according to the cloth.
All right. George Iniganga, let's amend the election law and make declaration of assets a requirement for nomination of any candidate. Also, make failure to declare assets within 3 months in the office, you lose your seat or your job for civil servants. The law should also be binding NGO workers. Theft and fraud are everywhere. Thefts are in the civil society as well. That's Georgie Niganga. Okelo Patrick Bonyo listening in from Busega. Do all people who are supposed to declare assets comply? What happens to those who refuse or underdeclare assets and liabilities? Do they confiscate their assets, jail, or bar them from public office, or both? If I was well off before joining public office, then I go broke, do IGG also investigate what went wrong because due to political reason my assets were dubiously grabbed? Then we have a question here from Patrick listening in from Bale. How many gifts has His Excellency declared at your office? That's a question there. Then we have a comment from Sam Opeto, who writes in and says, thank you for the program. I wanted to express my appreciation to the Inspector General of Government for elaborating on asset declaration. It was enlightening and helpful. Then we have another comment here from Grace Kabanda. Good evening, Kenneth and Dr. Patricia. Achan, Okiria, do you support ladies? Well, I think she's asking a question. She's been asking this question for quite some time. I think I should just...
What is the question?
It's not relevant for this discussion,
okay.
But it's something that she keeps on asking. I don't know if I should put it to you. Maybe in your inbox, maybe. Well, let's get some quick responses.
I would like to thank Joan
comments.
for listening in from Toronto, and thank you so much for appreciating the work of the Inspectorate of Government. George from Iganga has an excellent recommendation. The law should be amended for leaders to declare before you go for elections, before you stand to be member of parliament, for position of member of parliament. Patrick Okello, do all people comply? Like I said, we had compliance of 95% of 90% last season, and we expect 95%. So the other 5%, when they don't comply, those are the ones we verify, investigate, and submit to the tribunal. And that is what the statistics I gave you, that the tribunal has done 150 of those and has a bit of backlog there. And we also are held with some which we are still investigating. So, well, then, if I joined when I was better off and then became broke, does the IG investigate and find out why? This is now where the lifestyle audit comes in. If we look at somebody's lifestyle, he was better off and all of a sudden things have dwindled and he's first probably exposed to some challenges, or he got a job which is now not well paying, or his businesses have been...
he actually says he joins politics and by the time he's leaving he's completely broke. Maybe some of his assets were grabbed. That's what he said.
We will also look into the reasons of why those assets were grabbed. Is it that he became bankrupt, or... So I think it requires more of investigations, because if his assets were grabbed, for what reason were they grabbed and by whom? So it is something which requires more of investigation to establish basically what is happening. Samo Peto, thank you so much for listening in, and thank you for the message of appreciation. And Grace Kabanda, sorry I didn't get the question, but it is coming in my inbox, and we will deal with that at that level. Thank you very much.
More comments coming in. I think this is also a comment for another particular discussion. But as we come towards the end of this discussion, where can one get help in case they have not clearly understood the process of declaration? Are there any avenues for one to reach out to the Inspectorate of Government so that they can be educated further?
Well, the Inspectorate of Government has put in place avenues for leaders who may need help during this declaration period, and this include calling our toll-free lines. There is line 0800 111 666. Another one is 0800 111 777. And then the WhatsApp line is 070 772 1146. Or you can even send an email to the Inspectorate of Government on declarations@igg.go.ug. declarations@igg.go.ug. We also do have YouTube videos on how to declare, and when you visit even our regional offices, help will be available. So leaders can get help from their accounting officers or the focal point persons I talked about in their respective institutions, because I remember I talked about having trained focal point persons in all ministries, departments, and agencies. And then as members of the Fourth Estate, Radio 1, please take interest in these declarations of March. Thank you for giving me the airtime to speak here. Encourage leaders to submit their declarations on time. And this will go a long way in eliminating corruption. Many times people wait for the 11th hour when the system is getting jumbled, but this is the time. So I urge you to always give us also information of the suspected assets of leaders and public servants whose properties are beyond their well-known sources of income, because such information sharing will basically help the Inspectorate of Government to effectively carry out the verification of these incomes, assets, and liabilities. Otherwise, I would also like to use this opportunity to thank the government of the Republic of Uganda for the continuous support in the fight against corruption, and even thank our listeners out there, because they ask very, very helpful questions that touch on our work, questions that help us to improve, questions that help us to make impact when we do our work. Thank you for always being passionate about the fight against corruption, and I encourage you to even come out and keep reporting these cases to us. Where you find someone has primitive accumulation of wealth, you will report to us, we investigate, and then we will be giving feedback on the progress of each case. Thank you very much.
One last question. It comes in from Cecilia, who says, what mechanisms exist for citizens or the media to challenge the inaccurate or suspicious asset declarations?
Well, you bring it to our attention. We have got the statistics. If you think we are inaccurate, we believe in positive criticism. Like sometime back someone said, well, we don't have information. You're telling us to join the war against corruption. But the information is with us. It is us to share with you that information. Now, if we're calling upon you to report cases to us, we are not saying leaders should not be rich. But as long as you have acquired your resources in a clean manner, You declare, walk in the light. We will verify and know that this man has this business. This business generates this amount of money. This man is employed here. This is what he earns and this is his worth. And like I said, it's a tenet of good governance for leaders to walk in the light, and the people you're leading get to know what it is you have and get to know your worth. So as a tenet of good governance, for us, we are mandated under the law to promote it, and it is our core function, a function to promote fair, efficient, and good governance. When you are in doubt of our statistics, please bring it to us. We will share with you the reports, we'll share with you the information. We submit our reports to Parliament. We will be able to give you copies of those reports, and you will be able to see and verify and ascertain whether it is what you expect from us as the Inspectorate of Government. Thank you.
I forgot to inform the listeners at the beginning of this discussion that you are also an author of a new book, The Touch of Humility, Leading with Compassion and Purpose. What's that book about? Very quickly in a few seconds.
The book is about my journey of being able to serve with humility. It's more of a testimony of what humility can do to leaders out there and help them rise and rise and rise.
Right.
Because there are times when you climb and then pride comes in, then you forget that you're a servant. But the touch of humility brings out that component of servant leadership and encourages and inspires people through that testimony to be able to serve with the purpose, with humility and the fear of the Lord, and make significant impact in their spaces.
And that book is being launched on Friday. We'll be looking forward to
yes, is being
some
launched
of the
on
issues
Friday.
inside. Let me thank you for making time to be with us today on Spectrum. Thank you very much, dear listeners, for tuning in and contributing to this discussion. Up next, we have the news in English with Miss Josephine Dagano. Thereafter, we'll have the Soul Train with BB.